Federal officials have ordered the immediate grounding of some Boeing 737 MAX 9 jetliners until they are inspected after an Alaska Airlines plane suffered a blowout that left a gaping hole in the side of the fuselage. Today is Sunday, January 7th, 2024, and this is the Dunkley Report. Federal officials have ordered the immediate grounding of some Boeing 737 MAX 9 jetliners until they are inspected, after an Alaska Airlines plane suffered a blowout that left a gaping hole in the side of the fuselage. The required inspections will take around 4 to 8 hours per aircraft and will affect about 171 airplanes worldwide. The Alaska Airlines jetliner blew out the portion of its fuselage shortly after takeoff 3 miles above Oregon late Friday, forcing the pilots to make an emergency landing as its 171 passengers and 6 crew members donned oxygen masks. No one was seriously hurt. The mother of an 11-year-old who was killed this week in a school shooting in Iowa remembers the boy as a friendly child who exuded happiness. Amir Jolliff's family called him Smiley. He was killed on Thursday when a teenager opened fire in the cafeteria of Perry High School before classes were set to begin for the day. Authorities say he was shot 3 times. Amir's mother, Erica Jolliff, told the Associated Press that her son rushed off to school ahead of her and his sister that day because he was excited to see his friends after winter break. Israel and Lebanon-based Hezbollah have traded fire in one of the heaviest days of cross-border fighting in recent weeks. The cross-border fire Saturday comes a day after the Hezbollah leader urged retaliation for the targeted killing of a top Hamas leader in Lebanon's capital. The killing was widely blamed on Israel. The cross-border escalation comes as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken starts his 4th Mid-East trip in 3 months in hopes of preventing a regional confrontation. The European Union's foreign policy chief on his own regional visit says, "It is absolutely necessary to avoid Lebanon being dragged into a regional conflict." U.S. officials say that senior Biden administration leaders, members of Congress, and top Pentagon officials were unaware for days that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had been hospitalized since Monday, and now questions are swirling about his condition and the secrecy surrounding it. They said the White House National Security Council was told Thursday about Austin's stay at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. The Pentagon's failure to disclose Austin's hospitalization for days reflects stunning lack of transparency. Such secrecy at a time when the United States is juggling myriad national security crisis runs counter to normal practice with the President and other senior U.S. officials and cabinet members. Winter weather is battering parts of both U.S. coasts. In the west, a Sierra Nevada storm packing heavy snow shut down a stretch of interstate Saturday and briefly knocked out power to tens of thousands in Reno, Nevada. New Englanders are bracing for a potent mix of snow and freezing rain through the weekend as that storm makes its way up the East Coast. Winter storm warnings and watches remain in effect throughout the Northeast. Icy roads have made for hazardous travel as far south as North Carolina. New York, Governor Kathy Hochul expects 2/3 of her state to get 8 inches, 20 centimeters of snow or more. Hundreds of people charged with storming the U.S. Capitol 3 years ago have had a powerful incentive to plead guilty rather than go to trial. An Associated Press review of over 1,200 cases arising from the January 6, 2021, attack found that the average prison sentence for a Capitol riot defendant convicted of a felony after a trial is roughly 4 years and 3 months. That's roughly 2 years longer than the average sentence for those who pleaded guilty to a felony. Defendants who plead guilty typically receive some leniency for accepting responsibility. But lawyers for some January 6th. Defendants who went to trial have complained about what has long been described as a trial tax. Former President Donald Trump is calling on his supporters not to be complacent in the face of a commanding polling lead as he kicks off the sprint to the Iowa caucuses with his first events of the election year. Trump told supporters Friday evening that 10 days from now, the people of this state are going to cast the most important vote of your entire lives. He implored them to turn out on caucus night, warning that bad things happen when you sit back. The visit came the day before the 3rd anniversary of January 6th, 2021, when a violent mob of Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol as part of a desperate bid to keep him in power. A woman in her 90s has been pulled alive from a collapsed house in western Japan. 124 hours after a major quake slammed the region, killing at least 126 people, toppling buildings, and setting off landslides. The woman had survived for more than 5 days after the 7.6 magnitude quake that hit the area Monday. Meanwhile, aftershocks are threatening to bury more homes and block roads crucial for relief shipments. The risk of landslides is growing with rain and snow expected overnight and Sunday. More than 500 people were injured, and over 200 people are still unaccounted for, although the number has fluctuated. Even after the release of thousands of pages of court records about Jeffrey Epstein in recent days, some questions about the millionaire pedophile remain unanswered. The documents have received a lot of attention, but they shed little new light on the financier's habitual sexual abuse of underage girls. More than anything, the public is still fascinated with the possibility that some of the rich and powerful men in Epstein's social circle were also involved in the abuse. So far, 191 of the approximately 250 files that U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska authorized for release have been made public. Another batch is expected Monday, though there is little indication they will yield more than what has already been seen. Judith Light of Poker Face and Sam Richardson of Ted Lasso, and cast members from The Last of Us were among a wide range of acting winners at the Creative Arts Emmy Awards. The ceremony is a precursor to the primetime Emmy ceremony on Jan. 15. Light won her first Emmy in a nearly 50-year career for her guest role on Poker Face. Richardson won his first for playing a soccer-loving billionaire on Ted Lasso. And 2 cast members from The Last of Us, 53-year-old Nick Offerman and 20-year-old Storm Reed, won their first Emmys for guest roles on the HBO show. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the World News for Sunday, January 7th, 2024. Thanks again for joining us at The Dunkley Report.